I never thought I'd make this video. Honestly, I've filmed it in my head 1,000 times, but I never had the courage to press record. But today, something feels different. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's because silence can start to feel heavier than the truth. There are 5 things Charlie taught me, not through speeches or lectures, but through quiet moments, unfinished conversations, and the kind of love that doesn't always need words. And some of those lessons, I only understood when it was already too late to say, thank you. I remember the exact moment it hit me. It was quiet, too quiet. The kind of quiet where clocks feel louder than they should. I was sitting alone, his favorite jacket still hanging by the door, untouched. The world outside kept moving, cars passing, life continuing, but inside that room, everything was still. That's when I realized wisdom doesn't always arrive gently. Sometimes it shows up in the middle of loss, in the echo of a voice you can't hear anymore. And I knew if I didn't speak now, I might never say it at all. So today, I want to share the 5 things I learned from Charlie that you need to know. Not because I think I'm wise, but because sometimes someone else's truth helps you recognize your own. They're not dramatic. They're not perfect, but they are real. And the first lesson? It's the hardest one because it starts with something I wish I could go back and change. But I'll tell you in a moment. Keep watching. I'm about to share lesson 1, and it might be the one you didn't know you needed. And before we go on, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if this story already speaks to you. The first thing I learned from Charlie wasn't something he said, it was something I only understood after he was gone. Love doesn't always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes, it shows up in the smallest, quietest ways. The morning coffee already poured. A jacket placed over your shoulders when you didn't realize you were cold. The way he'd stay silent when I needed to speak, even if he didn't agree. Back then, I didn't always notice it. I thought love had to be loud to be real. Big gestures, dramatic words, perfect timing. But Charlie had this way of loving people gently, consistently, almost invisibly. I remember one evening, I was exhausted, staring at my screen, trying to finish work I should have walked away from hours ago. I didn't even look up when he walked into the room. He didn't say a word. He just placed a cup of tea beside me and whispered, "Finish what's important, but don't lose yourself doing it." At the time, I only heard the words. Now, I hear the meaning. He was teaching me that love isn't always spoken, it's shown. In presence. In patience. In choosing to stay when it would be easier to walk away. And I really wish, I had told him I saw that. I appreciated that. Because sometimes the things we don't say become the things we never get to say. That was lesson 1. But lesson 2? It's harder. Because it's about time. And how I learned, too late, that time doesn't wait for you to be ready. Stay with me. Lesson 2 is something I wish someone had told me sooner. Before we move on, if this resonates, tap like, drop a comment, or subscribe. It helps more than you know. I used to think there would always be more time. More time to sit down and talk. More time to say what I really felt. More time to fix small misunderstandings we left hanging in the air. But time doesn't send warnings. It doesn't knock on your door and say, "Are you sure you want to leave things like this?" It just keeps moving whether you're ready or not. There were days when Charlie would ask, "Can we just take a walk? Just the 2 of us." And I'd say, "Maybe later. I'm busy." Later became tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. And then one day, there was no more later. That's when I understood the second lesson he left me, even though he never said it out loud. Time is the only thing you can earn back. You can rebuild money. You can repair trust. You can heal from mistakes. But you can't rewind a moment you didn't show up for. And here's the part that hurts the most. Sometimes the people who give you their time are giving you the most valuable thing they have. And we don't realize it until it's gone. I remember standing in an empty hallway one night, staring at my phone, reading an old message from him that said, "Call me when you're free." I never answered. Not because I didn't care, because I thought I had more time. If I could go back to that moment, I would have called, even if it was just to say, "I'm here." Lesson 2 is simple, but it's heavy. If you love someone, show up when they're still here to feel it. The next lesson is one I didn't want to face, because it's about silence. And how sometimes silence doesn't mean peace, it means something is breaking. Stay with me. Lesson 3 is something most people don't realize until it's too late. And if this story is touching your heart, don't forget to like, comment where you're watching from, and subscribe so you don't miss the next part. Silence isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's the sound of something slowly falling apart, without anyone daring to say it. There were days when Charlie didn't argue, didn't push back, didn't even try to explain his side of things. Back then, I took that silence as agreement or worse, indifference. But now I understand, sometimes people go quiet not because they don't care, but because they're tired of not being heard. There was one evening. I remember it so clearly, even though no one said a word. We were sitting at the kitchen table. The light above us was dim. His fingers traced circles on his coffee mug. I was scrolling on my phone, half in the room, half somewhere else. He looked at me for a second, like he wanted to say something, then lowered his eyes and said nothing. I didn't ask what was wrong. I didn't look up. And I wish I had, because now I know that was a moment asking to be saved. Lesson 3 is this: unspoken words don't disappear. They build walls. And if you ignore them long enough, they turn into distance. Sometimes love isn't about choosing the right words. It's about noticing when someone has stopped using any. And that kind of silence? It's the kind that lingers long after the person is gone. I replay that night more than I want to admit. Not because of what was said, but because of what never was. But here's the thing, Charlie didn't just teach me about silence. He also taught me about strength. Not loud strength, not brave speeches or heroic moments, but the kind of strength it takes to keep going when no one sees the battle. And that brings me to lesson 4. If this is speaking to you, stay with me. Lesson 4 is the one that changed how I see strength forever. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know if you've ever felt this kind of silence too. Most people think strength looks like confidence, big speeches, or never breaking down. But Charlie taught me the strongest people are the ones who keep going, even when no one is clapping for them. He never called attention to what he carried. He didn't talk about the pressure he was under. He just kept showing up. For work, for family, for people who needed him, even when they didn't notice how much it cost. I remember watching him once from across a room, shoulders tired, eyes heavy, but when someone asked for help, he still smiled and said, "Yeah, I've got it." No hesitation, no complaint. Only later did I realize strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, "I'll try again tomorrow." But here's the part one didn't understand soon enough. Strong people still need someone to lean on. They still need to be asked, "Are you okay?" They still need a place where they don't have to be strong. And if you love someone who carries everything for everyone, don't wait until their silence becomes their breaking point. That was lesson 4. Strength isn't about never falling. It's about choosing to stand up again, even when no one sees you fall. But the hardest lesson, the one I almost didn't want to share, is the 5th one. Because it's the one that changed me the most. And it's the one I hope you never have to learn the hard way. Stay with me. Lesson 5 is the most personal one, and it's the reason I made this video. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe if this message means something to you. Your support helps more than you know. This is the lesson that hurts the most to talk about. Not because it's dramatic or loud, but because it's quiet and final. There are things I never said to Charlie. Not because I didn't feel them, but because I assumed there would be more time. Time to apologize. Time to say thank you. Time to say I love you, and I saw everything you did, even when I didn't say it. But time doesn't wait for the perfect moment. And sometimes, the right time never comes. I remember one morning, simple, ordinary, nothing special. I was about to leave, keys in hand. He looked at me like he wanted to say something. I smiled quickly, said, "I'll be back soon," and walked out the door. That moment plays in my head now more than any big event or celebration, because it's the small goodbyes we don't pay attention to that become the ones we wish we could relive. Lesson 5 is this: don't leave kind words unspoken. Don't leave love assumed. Because one day, the conversation ends, and you don't always get to choose when. Tell people you appreciate them. Tell them you notice the quiet ways they love you. Tell them you're grateful, before silence makes it impossible. So here they are. The 5 things I learned from Charlie that you need to know. Love is in the small, quiet moments, not the grand ones. Time doesn't pause for anyone. If it matters, be there. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's a quiet cry for help. Real strength isn't loud. It's the courage to keep going when no one sees. Say what needs to be said while you still can, because unspoken words don't disappear. These aren't just memories. They're directions. They change the way I live, the way I love, and the way I pay attention to the people around me. And if even one of them helps you before it's too late, then saying this out loud was worth it. Don't go anywhere. There's one last part I want to share with you. If any of these lessons touched your heart, like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. The truth is, we don't get to choose how long people stay in our lives, but we do get to choose what we carry forward from them. Charlie's no longer here in the way he used to be, but his lessons are. They live in the way I pause before reacting, in the way I listen more than I speak, in the way I don't wait to say, "I love you," or "I'm proud of you," or "I'm here." And maybe that's what it really means to keep someone's memory alive, not through monuments or perfect speeches, but through the quiet decisions we make every day to love a little softer, to pay attention a little more, to not wait for tomorrow, to become honest today. Your life, my life, anyone's life, isn't made out of big headlines or perfect photographs. It's built out of little choices, little moments, the ones we think don't matter until they're gone. So, if you take anything from this video, let it be this: don't wait. Say it now. Show it now. Love them now, before time turns later into never. If this story meant something to you, don't leave without doing 3 things. Like this video so more people who need this message can find it. Subscribe if you want more stories that speak to the heart, not just the algorithm. Tell me in the comments, what's one lesson someone you love taught you? Thank you for being here, for listening not just with your ears, but with your heart. This was 5 things I learned from Charlie. You need to know this. I'm Erika, and wherever you are right now, I hope you choose to say what matters while you still can.